everyone, it's Nina. Thanks for joining me today for another video. Today I'm going to be using Simon Says Stamp's Religious 2024 card kit, which is brand new and just came out. This kit is available for pre-order and it will ship in early November. So if you purchase it now, it will then ship by early November to you so that you can use it to make fantastic holiday cards. This kit is jam-packed. The value of the kit is fantastic, and I really enjoyed being able to use tons of the contents from this kit to make 4 different card projects, which is what I'm going to be sharing with you today. So this card here is what we're going to be creating first. I'm using many of the contents, including the stencil, some of the foil, paste, and more. I'm going to start first by taking my paper and stenciling the Angels and Stars stencil onto some paper. This is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch cardstock from Simon. And I'm laying the stencil on top of my craft tacky mat along with my paper. This is going to hold my paper in place so that the stencil and the paper don't shift as I'm working, which is really nice because then you don't have to use any tape to hold any of these items down. I'm going to ink blend first with some marine ink from Simon Says Stamp with a small blending brush, and I'm only putting that color on the angels, and particularly only the top half of the angels, because the bottom half I'm going to use another color of ink, and this one is Heather. It's a really nice, beautiful purple, and I'm blending that into the blue so that the angels have a two-tone color effect. I'm also making sure to not color in the stars because I want to color those yellow, and I used Sunbeam for that. So once my ink blending is complete, I want to add a little bit of foiling to this. So I'm going to remove the stencil from my craft tacky mat. The stencil is super delicate, but even that delicate stencil was held down beautifully by the craft tacky mat. Once I've removed the paper, then I'm going to bring in one of the glue sticks that's included in the kit. And what's fun about this is that you can use the glue stick to transfer foil onto your project. So I'm going to use it to make a frame. I'm just brushing some of that glue around the edges of my paper, just randomly, just to create a brushstroke effect. You can kind of see the glue as I tip this in the light here. This is going to be a perfect adhesive to transfer some of this deco foil that you get in the kit. So this is the bronze color, and I'm going to lay this over top of my paper, which of course has the glue on it. And then I'm going to use my sleeve, or you can use a soft cloth, to burnish that foil into your paper. So what this is going to do is going to pick up on all of the glue, and so then when we peel back the foil, we're going to get this really nice brush stroke finish around the edges, which I think looks so pretty. If you need to, you can always go back in with a little bit more glue to fill in any spots that you're not totally happy with. I thought this corner here could use a little bit more, so I just brushed a little bit more of that glue on and then burnished the foil into it, and I liked how that turned out. Now I'm going to bring my paper back into my craft tacky mat along with the stencil, because I want to add a little bit of the paste that's also included in the kit. There's a jar of Tim Holtz sparkle paste included, and I thought that would be beautiful on top of the angels. But it's also serving another purpose, because this paste, once dry, is also going to form a resist of the ink that we have underneath. So it's trapping all of that beautiful ink blending that we've done already on our paper. It's going to trap that ink and allow us to ink blend the sky without ruining the ink colors that we've already added onto our paper. So once that was dry off camera, I did use a couple of inks in both Chip Sapphire and Villainous Potion to create that really pretty blue color around the edges. Then for the yellow, I used Sunbeam. That's going to create a nice halo around that angel that's in the center, and it really adds a nice framing around her. I used a gold Sharpie marker that's included in the kit, and I'm using that to add little dots around all of these stars to create even smaller stars. So these are just going to add some fill to the inner areas of this background, and I also like that the gold metallic played nicely with the bronze foil. So as I tip this in the light, you can see how that gold shines beautifully. I just love how that bronze foil really added the perfect framing to this piece. So for a sentiment, I'm going to pull out this oldie but goodie die from Simon Says Stamp called Rejoice, and I'm going to die cut it from some gold metallic cardstock. This die does have a shadow layer, but I'm not using it for my card. I'm going to die cut the main word die from both the gold cardstock and also some white, because I want to be able to stack these pieces together to form a slightly more dimensional greeting. This will give the sentiment a little bit of lift off of the cardstock. And I'm going to glue all of this together with a detail glue bottle that is included in the kit. I filled it with some of the craft tacky glue that you also get from the kit. And I did water the glue down just a little bit so that way it'll flow nicely out of the fine precision tip bottle. But that's going to work beautifully for this really delicate die cut to make sure that I get glue on the die cut, and especially those little fine areas, but not too much glue all at once. So after I've glued my sentiment on top of the card, just underneath that main angel in the center, I'm also going to layer up and glue all of the little dots above my sentiment. This way I have the sentiment finished. These are really tiny and tedious, but it really does make a difference to have those little tittles there to finish off the greeting. So now I'm going to pull out the stamp set. This is a sentiment here I'm going to use here, A Savior is Born. I'm going to pair that up with Rejoice. I'm going to stamp that greeting onto some soft navy cardstock. So I stamped this with embossing ink, and then I'm going to use white embossing powder to heat set the sentiment and then form a really nice bright white greeting on top of this darker colored cardstock, which will stand out really nicely on our card. So after I heat set that, I did bring in my little Tim Holtz mini trimmer to cut this down into a simple little strip. And then I will cut down the edges just to clean it up, and then I can pop this up on top of my card using some foam tape. I tucked this up underneath the sentiment Rejoice, which looks great, and that's going to complete card number 1. By the way, there are some metallic envelopes included in the kit in both gold and silver, and those will work beautifully for me to be able to send these handmade cards for the holiday season. Speaking of silver and gold, those metallic colors look so good together, so I'm going to embrace that and splatter on some silver metallic spray from Tim Holtz onto this pattern paper that's from the kit. It's the Ink Drops Midnight Collection. And these papers have beautiful gold flaked accents on them. And they aren't actually dimensional. They're just printed onto the paper, but they look so real. And I thought that would be a really nice pairing together, a gold and silver combination. So I'm die cutting the Arched Christmas Star die from Simon Says Stamp's religious kit here. I love that this die is included because it's so detailed and delicate. I've die cut it from the silver holographic cardstock that you get in the kit, as well as some gold glitter paper that I had in my stash. That combination looks so beautiful together, and it allows me to tie in those two metallics throughout this card. So we've got the gold in the background, a little bit of silver splattering on top, and then the main focal point has that gold and silver combination too. I'm putting this onto a card base that I made from some Neenah Desert Storm cardstock, and then I'm going to stamp my greeting with that same soft navy cardstock. The soft navy cardstock really matches nicely with the colors of the kit, and so I thought this would be a good pairing for my main sentiment, and this is going to get embossed with gold embossing powder. I'm heat setting this with my heat tool, and then I'm going to use the coordinating dies to cut this out. The coordinating dies cut out the larger greetings from the stamp set, and the coordinating dies are available for a separate purchase, so they aren't part of the kit, but you can buy them with the kit and they'll all get shipped together. All of these items from the kit are available for pre-order right now. So even if you don't want to purchase the entire kit, you can purchase the stamp set and the dies separately and get those as a pre-order, and they'll ship around the same time, about early November. So I'm popping up my sentiment underneath of the Christmas star, and it's going to get glued down with foam tape. And then I'm going to bring in these metallic droplets from Tim Holtz. You get a whole pack of these in the kit, and I'm going to glue those down with the Craft Tacky Glue. I used both silver and gold here, again tying in that combination of the metallics, and I just love how this looks. This is a very elegant card, and with the sparkle, with the star and the little frame around it, it just looks so pretty. The Midnight Backdrops pattern paper are just so regal. They match nicely with the theme of the kit, and the intense colors are really fun. So I'm going to bring that stamp set back in now, and we're going to stamp one of the images. I'm going to use this angel here in the top left, and I'm going to stamp this onto some watercolor paper. I'm going to heat emboss it with also the same gold embossing powder that I used earlier. Before I stamp, I do want to make sure I prep the surface of my paper with a powder tool. I'm using the textured side of the Tim Holtz watercolor paper that you get in the kit. So this gold embossing powder is going to create a beautiful edge for our angel, and it's also going to be great for watercoloring because the embossed areas are going to keep the watercolor contained to each section of the image, and that makes it super simple for coloring. I did use some Prima watercolors that I had in my stash. I'm going to link to a pack that Simon has. It's the vintage ones, and those have very similar colors to the ones that I use today. I have a mix of the Prima watercolors, so this palette that I have is just a combination of different ones, and I really liked the purple. I thought that would go well with the pattern papers and the colors of the kit. So I used the purple for the gown of the angel, and then I will also use some tan color for her skin, a little bit of blue for her wings, And then finally, for the halo and her trumpet, I'm actually going to use the distress spritz that you get in the kit, which is fossilized amber. Always make sure you shake this before you use it because they do separate when not in use. So you want to make sure you get that mica mixed into the fluid. But once you mix that up, it creates this beautiful golden color, and it works great for watercoloring. So I'm going to use that to color in these two sections of the image, which I think looks so pretty. The images have a stained glass appearance, which I think is really fun. It goes well with the other items in the kit. And if you didn't want to watercolor this image, you could stamp this onto the pattern paper and create a really neat stained glass effect. So I have my image colored, and I'm going to use the coordinating dies to cut that out. I'm also going to pull out this nested dome arches die set from Simon. I love these dies. I use them all the time. And I'm going to use it to cut out the pattern paper. And then I'm also going to use the largest of the nested domed arches to create my card base. So that way I'll have a shaped card base. I'm cutting this from some white cardstock, and I will cut this panel twice, just so that way I have a front and a back, and then I'll glue them together to form the card base itself. So to create that, I'm going to take one of the pieces and score it with my scoring board, so that way I have a flap that will be able to allow this card to open and close. So I'll fold that flap down, and there's no particular measurement for this. You don't have to score it at a certain point. I just roughly scored it at a certain area that I liked best, and then I'm going to use some terrific tape to attach this to the front flap of my card. So I'll just line these two up and adhere them together, and that's going to create this really awesome shaped card. This stands up beautifully, and it's going to really mimic the stained glass window effect that I'm kind of got going here throughout my cards. I'm also going to use the nested domed arch frames, and that's going to pair up nicely with my smaller pattern paper dome. That way I have a little bit of a trim around it, which looks really pretty. I'll glue this straight down onto my card base, but the pattern paper piece I will actually pop up with foam tape. So I used craft tacky glue for the frame, and then I used black foam squares for the dimensional piece. So that way it just has a little bit of lift off of the frame and creates some depth. Then I can start gluing my elements onto my card. That includes the angel. I popped her up onto the right side of the card. And then the sentiment, I used a couple pieces of foam tape to attach down right underneath her. Bringing in a few of those same metallic droplets, I added those in gold only though, around the angel, just to create a little bit of a trail. So this card is so elegant with the embossed details and the gold with the pattern paper in that really neat, nice, deep, dark blue color. The angel stands out so well off of that. It looks like a night sky that she's floating through. All right, so we have one more card, and this one I actually made as a sample for the Simon Says Stamp card kit reveal video. So I don't actually have a video on how I made this piece, but basically what I did was I took the arched Christmas star die and I cut it from 3 different sheets of the Ink Drops Midnight paper collection that's included in the kit. I paper pieced those back together along with a gold die cut that is the outer edges of the frame. So the pattern paper pieces got nested into that main frame, and that created this multicolored finish, which looks like a stained glass window. So this piece I'm going to have as the center point for my card. I'm going to create a background with this new Flashy Flare embossing folder from Simon Says Stamp. This isn't part of the kit. This is something that came out recently, but it's such a cool design, and I thought this would be fun to emboss onto white cardstock and then create a burst effect with the foil. So I'm going to have this cover my entire A2 card, and then the star is going to get centered into the middle, which looks great with that burst coming out from behind it. I'm going to use that glue stick, but this time I'm putting it on the middle portions of the card instead of the edges. And I'm very carefully, not pressing too hard, putting that glue on the raised areas of my embossed design. So just gently brushing this onto the paper. I'll put some gold foil down, and then I will go ahead and burnish this onto the paper. That glue is going to allow me to transfer this foil onto the raised sections of the embossing folder, which looks so pretty. I love that burst effect. Again, if I need to, I can come back in with a little bit more glue and add a little bit more foil on top, burnishing that into place, and that's going to give me this great background for my stained glass window. So I attached my background onto my A2 card just using some regular adhesive. I used terrific tape for that. And then I put my stained glass window right in the center, and I popped that up with some foam tape. For my sentiment, I'm going to use the Rejoice greeting from the stamp set, and I embossed this with white embossing powder onto black cardstock. Using the coordinating die, I'll go ahead and cut this out, holding that down with a bit of very, very low tack tape from Simon Says Stamp while I die cut. And then this sentiment got popped up right on top of the stained glass window along the right hand side. This card is simple. You could make a lot of these all at once. I just love the inlay effect of the pattern paper inside of that gold metallic cardstock. And then that focal point just looks so beautiful with the burst coming out from behind it. So there you have it, 4 different ways that you can use the Simon Says Stamp Religious 2024 card kit, available right now over at simonsaystamp.com. I have links to the kit plus all the supplies that I used today listed in the video description, as well as on my blog. And remember, this kit is available for pre-order, so you purchase it now and then it will ship to you late October, early November. So you'll be able to get this in time for all of your holiday card making. And I think this is such a beautiful kit for making some fantastic projects. So I hope you were inspired by the cards that I've shared today. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching this video. I will be back very soon with more to share, but until then, have a wonderful day, and thanks again for stopping by.